Here at the Heart of Glass podcast, we want to make this the safest listening and viewing experience possible for everyone. So that being said, today's episode mentions suicidal ideations, alcoholism, and drug use. If you're sensitive to any of those topics, we've listed the minute markers in the description below. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Heart of Glass, the podcast, the show that takes a deeper, more intimate look at the awesome humans who make up the heartbeat of the Glass City. We are actually filming off-site today. Normally we film at Toledo Spirits, but we are actually in the home of the guest that I'm interviewing today. Today's guest is a talented Toledo-based videographer, photographer, producer, and songwriter. He is an avid health and fitness enthusiast and proponent of mental health. I was initially introduced to him through his work with Moonlight Creatives, the photography and videography brainchild of Tiernen Rice, who is the producer and videographer of our podcast. I am so happy to introduce you to this very self-aware, compassionate creative. So humans of the Glass City, I give you Mr. Tyler Ritter.
How's it going?
Tyler,
how's it going, everybody?
I'm so glad that you're gonna do this. When you visited the podcast, when we were shooting our bio video, actually, we had a chance to talk about the idea of you being on, and I'm so glad that you agreed to be on.
I'm glad you guys have me here. I'm a little nervous, but
yeah.
I'm glad to be here and excited to do this.
Good,
so, yeah.
Good. Nerves are really normal. I think literally every single guest that we've had on has experienced nerves to some point, but we're gonna have a really great conversation.
Cool.
I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better, and for people in our city who both know you and don't know you, to get to know you and to get to know you better.
Cool.
You ready to dive into this?
Yes. I'm as ready as I'm
right.
gonna get. I'm ready. Yeah.
All right. So you said that you wanted to start at your teenage years, and I'm super okay with that. So let's dive in to your teenage years.
Okay.
So you went to Swanton High School.
I did. Yes.
What was Tyler Ritter like in high school?
You know, it's kind of crazy because in high school, I really wanted to fit in with a lot of the popular kids and like be really cool and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I found myself like not really clicking with those people as much. So I don't know. To get back to your question to answer it, like I was a stoner. I smoked. Gosh, my parents are gonna hate me for this. I smoked so much weed, like in our late middle school, early high school, and stuff like that. That was the crowd I fit into.
Okay.
So I was just, I don't know. I kind of like bounced around, but like I don't know. I was just kind of a random kid, I guess. I don't know.
Were you the kind of kid that pretty much got along with everyone and kind of able to float from circle to circle? Even if you maybe didn't feel the most comfortable, you were still able to slide in?
I would say yes. Yeah, I would say that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that fits. I would say I'm a floater, but I mostly was like a stoner and kind of like an outcast a little bit, I think is like how I really was, but I tried hard to fit in with the cool people. I guess that's...
I understand what you're saying. I also want to let you know, I don't view the descriptor stoner as a bad thing. Some of the nicest people in the world that I know are stoners, and I know there's still a little bit of a misconception that gets associated with laziness or lack of productivity, but you know as well as I do that's not true. So my picture of you was just a really nice, sweet, kind of laid back kind of person. Even if you weren't feeling laid back on the inside, laid back on the outside.
Yeah.
Is that pretty accurate?
It's usually surface level.
Yeah.
Like, chill on the surface, but not on underneath. It's just not chill at all, ever.
I understand that. Yeah, that's me. A lot of my my bubbly exterior is usually just my anxiety manifesting itself outwardly. So I get that. You can kind of feel like you have a storm going on inside, but outwardly that doesn't necessarily translate that way.
Yes, it's usually mostly a storm on the inside, and like the outside surface is just, I don't even know. Like, it seems calm, but it's not, like,
I
at
understand.
all, like 0%.
Okay.
Ever.
I totally get that. We're gonna definitely dive into the anxiety portion of your life, because I know that's been a big part of your life. And we'll be able to have a really good conversation about that, because like we've talked outside of here, I also deal with that. So I feel a lot of empathy for you, because I've been in that same space.
Yeah, I know we got us chatting and stuff when I met you for the first time. We chatted for like an hour.
I know we did.
Or something like that, just nonstop, just talking about anxiety and the different things we got going on. That was awesome.
Well, that's why I was really excited to talk to you. So I'm really glad that we're finally here and getting to have this more formal conversation.
Cool. I'm in for it.
So you used to describe yourself as a spiritual person, but now you no longer identify that way. So before we get into the reasons that you no longer consider yourself to be that, I would love to dig into why that was such an important part of your life at one time. And you mentioned discovering the law of attraction in your teens.
Oh, yeah.
Was this the beginning of your spiritual journey, and what drew you to that particular ideology?
My uncle is actually the first person who brought me to like the law of attraction and stuff like that. And so at the time when I first started getting into like the law of attraction and stuff like that, it eventually led me down the road of spirituality and learning different spiritual concepts and meditation and different, affirmation practices and stuff like that. But the law of attraction, my uncle introduced to me. I thought it was just the coolest thing. Oh, manifestation. You're like, yeah, I want that thing. I'm gonna manifest it and do all this stuff. Later on now I realize that it's not that simple. It's not as simple as it's made out to be. But spirituality was something that was like the gateway to like my spirituality opening up. And then I started getting into more spiritual concepts. And I was getting really close with my buddy Tiernen at the time. They were teaching me a lot of spiritual stuff going on during that time period in my life. And I learned all kinds of crazy different things. I read cover to cover different books of like conversations with God books. Like I read all 9 or 10 in the series front to back. The books were just coated in sticky notes, just of everything in those books that I thought were important.
Sounds like you were really hungry to take in that information.
Super hungry. And the thing is I don't really know at the time what I was even looking for. I just knew that it was something I was super interested in and that I really felt home in at the time anyway. So I mean, fast forward, I guess, and here we are, and I'm just, not really into that stuff anymore.
Sure.
So
well, you know what? We all evolve and change, and even parts of our lives that can literally almost encompass every aspect of our life or has the biggest part of our identity. Sometimes we grow beyond that or out of that, or are still in it, but it evolves to look differently. So you're definitely not alone in that. I think a lot of people start at one point with that and end up at another point.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, because it's been since, probably about the middle of my teens, probably about 15, 16 is kind of where that journey, started.
So you were very invested in it then.
Very invested in it, and all throughout my late teens, early 20s. And it was my early 20s, like somewhere in between my early 20s and my mid 20s, where, I had a crazy experience happen that made me realize that most of the things that I did believe weren't true.
Sure.
And so, it kind of shattered my belief system, if I'm being honest.
I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to talk about that. We're gonna get a little bit more in depth into why you moved away from that. I understand how something can really encompass a very large part of your life, and then you move away from it.
Yeah.
You said it around age 21, in the midst of what you described as a complicated spiritual upheaval, you found health and fitness. And what made you fall in love with that?
It's honestly, I can't even give you a straight answer. So I feel like and this is kind of a complicated answer to a simple question.
That's okay.
But I feel like there are a lot of things that people are naturally good at.
Yeah.
And health and fitness is something that naturally comes to me just naturally. It's not something I have to fight myself for or try to convince myself this or that. It's just, I show up at the gym, I work out, it comes to me naturally, like when I'm doing exercises or I'm changing my diet or anything like that, it just clicks, it just makes sense for me.
Okay.
And so when I found it, the reason I got into working out and trying to like get more fit and more healthy is, I feel like every, young guys, I gotta get the women, I gotta get the girls, man. I gotta flex on them women. And then I, started making gains and stuff like that and starting to see progress and realized that I just genuinely love being in the gym.
Okay.
Like, I don't necessarily have to work out to get bigger or more whatever it is. I just enjoy, it's an escape.
Yeah.
Being in the gym is an escape from reality for me. So when I go in there and I have my headphones in and I'm in my own world, I just kind of like zone out and, you start getting a pump and you start feeling it, and I can just kind of allow myself to just let go of certain things, and like just offers an escape, for me. Anyway.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm sure because of the time that you were very immersed in studying spirituality in general, that you're familiar with the concept of mindfulness.
Yeah.
It sounds like what you were experiencing was the actual ability to be in the moment, which even outside of the physical benefits of what you're doing, did you feel like that the health and fitness component helps you with your mental health?
Yes, that's actually a big part of why I do it, because the whole like going into the gym and fighting your demons is no joke, because when I'm in there, I am fighting my demons like to the core of me. I'm like, I'm like working them out of me essentially, I guess. And so I don't know, I think that for me, it makes me balanced as an individual, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It just balances everything.
Yeah.
And then I can translate that into my regular life, so.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of my core, my rock. It's like that, and then everything else can kind of flow in my life.
Sure,
So,
like it adds some consistency to your daily life. Yeah,
exactly.
Which as an anxious person, consistency is pretty great.
Yeah, it's the only thing that I'm actually consistent at, unfortunately, so, but it's awesome.
You know what though? There are so many people who, self-discipline is a tough thing when it comes to that, and so I don't think you need to minimize it, because that's a really amazing thing that you found something that helps you in a whole variety of ways.
Oh yeah, I can't describe in words what health and fitness has done for me, and that was when excuse me. Dude,
Real moments on Heart of Glass.
Oh man, this stuff's really getting to me. But yeah, it's done amazing things for me, health and fitness, and
that's awesome. So you said that at one point your whole life basically consisted of positive and spiritual practices, which from the outside looking in seems like it would be an excellent thing. However, like you were saying before, I know you said that you came to the realization that you were forcing those beliefs on yourself, leading you to one of the most traumatic experiences of your life. As much as you are comfortable going into detail, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so most of my life was just positive affirmations, constant like meditation, forcing myself to do like different spiritual practices and have to, stretch or do this, or, I have to, wake up and, be aware of this or do that. And I'll spare you all the details of the, individual practices and stuff that, that I was doing, but so in doing all this and learning all these spiritual things and talking and reading these books and researching things and watching spiritual teachers and, Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sundays.
Yes.
Oh man, tell you what, those things slapped back in the day. Yeah, so it led me to an experience I had that is I'll try to not get too detailed into it, because
you just honor your own comfort level with it.
Yeah, so I essentially got entangled with somebody who is like a spiritual teacher, where they essentially manipulated me and kind of used their own techniques of like whatever, like I can't explain it, like just mind tricks on me essentially to make me think and believe that the things that they were telling me were true and real, and I believed them. And then come to find out that after all said and done, none of it was true, and that they had essentially brainwashed me into believing a lot of concepts and beliefs that were never true. And they were essentially using me like a tool, I guess, for whatever personal gain they had. And after that, I was left kind of broken, and I'm still pretty, piecing those pieces together. It's been a couple years now since that's happened, but I'm still piecing it together and figuring it out. But yeah, no, it shattered my complete belief system. Like I had no clue who I was, what I believed, and everything spiritually that I believed for years that, they had confirmed that those beliefs were true, were no longer true. So when you have years of foundation built and it's just gone in the matter of months, it leaves you in a place where you're essentially super depressed. I was very depressed. There was many times where this is kind of dark, but I wanted to jump off a bridge. I was sat my car, in Maumee, the overpass at River Road, and I just wanted to go up on the overpass and jump off. It was that miserable. It was awful. And thank God, we're here. We go to therapy. We work through our stuff.
Therapy's a good thing.
So I'm basically in the process of still building my foundation, a new foundation that is not spiritually based, that is actually just reality, real shit, not just, spiritual concepts and stuff that have no concrete evidence. And we're doing a lot better, a lot better.
I'm really happy to hear that. First of all, let me tell you, I'm so happy that you're here.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know you were talking about crying beforehand, but I feel what you're saying because spiritual religious trauma is a very real thing.
It is.
And I think there are very few people that haven't experienced some to a certain extent. I think the reason that what you're saying is resonating so much because I know what it's like to essentially grow up with a specific belief system that's kind of been spoon-fed to you, and especially when you have people who in your mind are in powerful positions, who back up what you're believing and who you trust. When you discover that their intentions are not pure, it's heartbreaking, and I understand how it can completely shake your worldview and how you can look at your life and kind of question everything. So I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I understand why you pivoted the way that you pivoted, because especially considering the fact that there was a person directly related to that trauma, I understand why you would not want anything to do with that. So I'm really, really sorry that turned out to be the way that it was for you.
And I mean, essentially everything, it is what it is, and there's, I guess this is a spiritual way of seeing it. There's always a rhyme or reason for everything. It's hard to believe that sometimes, but if it wasn't for honestly my best friend, I probably wouldn't be here.
I get that. You have a very good best friend, and we're actually going to talk about them later.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty all right. Well, I also was just sitting here listening to what you're saying, and everybody's spiritual journey is different, and it's a spiritual journey whether or not spirituality is a big part of your life anymore. So your journey's your own. There's no judgment to place on it because there's no right or wrong thing for a specific person. So as long as you're honoring what is right for you, then you're doing the best thing that you can. And so I have a lot of respect for you. You're very, very strong to still be standing. I'm very glad that you're still here standing.
I appreciate it. It took a lot of courage and a lot of I don't even know how I got through some of those nights, if I'm being honest. I have no clue. But whatever that was, or whatever strength I had in those moments, I'm glad that they were there.
I'm glad they were too. I'm really glad they were.
Things were pretty hard.
So you said that essentially since that traumatic experience and breaking away from spirituality in general, that you've begun this rebuilding process from the ground up.
Yeah.
So what has that rebuilding process looked like for you?
You know, I just hit the mic. I know I
That's
slapped
okay.
it.
The last episode that we recorded, I think my face hit the mic like 6 or 7 times. So you're good.
Oh gosh. But the rebuilding process it's been a very interesting one, because at the same time I'm working through past beliefs and, you know, traumas and stuff that have been so rooted in me for so many years that no matter how hard I try to believe something else, those are just still there, you know. So the process of building a new foundation, it's been very, very hard. It's still very hard. There are days where I just don't have the energy to even, literally I get home and like just thinking a thought in my head is too much work. Like I'm that exhausted. It is insane. But I would rather you know, have a new foundation and start seeing a little bit of a light, you know, at the end of the tunnel. Is just it makes you feel good and more reassuring that the path that you are on, because it's hard when you have no belief system and you have to rebuild it. Even trying to find beliefs that make sense, you're just weary of them because you don't trust anything. You know, your level of trust is gone. It's just not there anymore. So it's been hard, but
yeah, you know what, I get that. Healing is literally a journey, and it's sometimes painful. It sometimes feels really good. Sometimes it's incredibly sad, and sometimes you just genuinely don't have the energy for it. And coming out of what you've come out of, because like I said, I do understand, obviously, your journey and your spiritual trauma is your own. I understand from the standpoint that it's almost like rewiring your brain from being in a cult.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I could not phrase it better. Like, it's like cult mentality just beat into you. And then once you realize it's not real, it's like you wake up from a dream. You're like, what the whoa, dude, this isn't right. Like, it's nuts. It's a weird experience.
It really is. And the way I look at it for myself, and you may have already had this thought occur to you, and if not, maybe this will be helpful, is I try, even now, I've been out of what I grew up in for a very long time, but even still, I kind of look at it this way to give myself a little bit of grace with it. As long as I was in that, it's gonna take at least as long, if not longer, / my entire life to work through, to get over. I don't like to use that term, but you know what I mean, to be able to move past. So I would encourage you as a friend to give yourself some grace and love with it, because it really is a journey and it takes time.
It is so hard. I wish I had better words to describe it, you know, to describe rebuilding a foundation from scratch, but other than just keep going is it. It's all I have.
Yeah.
It's all I have to say is just don't stop, because there are moments, graceful moments where like you're like, okay, this is it. Like this is more of who I really am, rather than like, you know, what I thought I was, I guess. It's hard to explain. It really is.
I'm also really excited for you, because you now have this opportunity to completely refigure out who you are on your own terms without outside influence. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and that is what is super, super exciting. Because just having like somebody there like influencing you, especially someone who's just feeding you like that cult mentality, and you're just chewing it up. You're just like, yeah, this is great. I can't until you experience it. Which I don't recommend for anyone.
No,
please
it's not great.
Please don't do that. Don't do that, please.
Well, let's talk about someone that we both know and love, that we've already mentioned, and who happens to be in this room. So this might be awkward for you, Tiernen, but we're gonna talk about you for a minute.
Yeah.
So like I said in the intro, your best friend, Tiernen, is our podcast producer and videographer.
Yeah.
And I know that Tiernen is your best friend, and
Yes.
I truly believe that they're one of the most wonderful humans on the planet. I couldn't ask for a better person to be doing this with, who also understands the mission of what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And as tender-hearted and compassionate as they are, I can just imagine how much of a friend and truly support system that they've been to you through it. So what has it meant to you to have Tiernen present through your healing journey?
It's meant everything to me because given the situation, if it was anybody else, they probably would have cut me off as a friend.
Why do you say that?
It involves somebody that they are also close to.
Okay.
So given that, it's kind of a tricky situation where if it was anybody else, they probably would be like, okay, well, that's not cool. I don't want to be your friend anymore. And I was terrified in those moments when I realized that, kind of like, the brainwash that I went through and kind of like what I was experiencing, and I couldn't explain to anybody and no one like could understand it. And I was just worried that like I wouldn't have my best friend anymore. And I spent like many nights wondering what life would be like if I didn't have my best friend, and it was awful. But they stuck with me through it, and so if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to get through it at all, because they actually recommended me to where they currently, seek help. And so if it wasn't for that, I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't know where I'd be right now. Therapy. Yeah, I don't know if it was wrong for me to spill any information or not, but like I was trying to keep it.
I feel like as long as you're not giving out the specific therapist name, you're probably pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. What a gift to be given, to be introduced to therapy, especially in the midst of what you were going through. And you said that you started to find yourself again through therapy and discovered that you had severe anxiety, which it sounds like you didn't at the time have the words to put into that. You just knew that something was different, but for you, you'd been living that way for so long. It was pretty normal, quote unquote, for you.
Yeah, it's weird. So like with anxiety, so I've only been going to therapy for probably maybe 2 years now, if that, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in that time frame. And I'm 26 now, and I really didn't even know I had anxiety, like a severe anxiety, to the level that I have it, until I started going, and they started breaking my process down and how I function on a daily, and realized that I do have it and that I have it really bad. And for those that don't have anxiety, severe anxiety is hard to explain, but in its severe form, it feels like you're dying.
It also feels like your brain is on fire.
Or your brain is on fire. A lot of the times it'll feel like almost like up the back of your neck. It almost feels like just like it is. Yes, on fire is the only way to explain it. It is awful. It makes functioning hard. Like just going to a grocery store is hard for me. Like just shopping in general, something that's a simple task, I get severe anxiety, and for me, like I carry a lot of tension in my body. So like I'm always super, super tense. I find myself like I'll be tense in my shoulders or in my arms, or I'll be squeezing and I don't even realize I'm squeezing. To compensate for that severe anxiety that I'm going
I understand that. Have you heard of the book The Body Keeps the Score?
I have not.
I'll send you the info for it. I think you, as somebody who reads, I think you would like it. It talks about the bodily connection to trauma. And how trauma lives in our bodies, and especially as someone with anxiety, I get anxiety is literally a physical thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Very, very physical.
So in what way did getting that official diagnosis help you feel empowered?
It made me realize that I wasn't crazy, and it also was able to start recognizing that in certain situations where I wouldn't I knew, okay, my anxiety is strong here. So I started actually being aware of it, and it's just on, for me, it's on just all the time. There's never a moment where it's not on. And so just having that awareness has allowed me a lot of, I guess, peace in a way, but also then using coping mechanisms to be able to recognize, oh, this is anxiety. I can use this to counteract that,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think sometimes just being able to put a word to something helps you feel empowered because, one, like you said, you know you're not crazy.
Yes.
This is unfortunately normal for a lot of people, and knowing what it is helps you then be able to know how you can potentially help to tackle it. And I love that you've learned coping mechanisms for that.
Yeah, it's been hard. It's not always perfect, sometimes the anxiety gets the best of you. Sometimes it's so overwhelming that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. You just have to just keep pushing through. Sometimes it's so intense, but at least at this point in my life, I'm able to recognize it.
That's amazing.
It's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
We're starting that journey, so
that's awesome.
I hope it goes well. We'll see.
What else have you learned about yourself in therapy that gets you excited that you maybe didn't have insight on prior?
I wouldn't say that this particular thing gets me excited, but with anxiety, it kind of plays into anxiety, but I'm like super, super hard on myself. And in realizing that I do have anxiety and like I am hard on myself, I can't tell you the feeling it feels when I recognize in my head when I'm being mean to myself and I actually stop. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't feel like garbage right now because I just stopped myself from thinking that. I actually feel good now.
That has to feel incredible after not having that tool, having that power, because I know for me sometimes anxiety just feels out of control and like it takes over. So being able to recognize it and have some ability to put a stop to it to a certain extent, that's really awesome.
It's not, I guess it's hard. Don't get me wrong, there's different techniques and stuff. But as my therapist has said, it's called stop technique, which is super kind of a lame. If I'm being honest, it's exactly what you're doing. But when you have
pretty literal.
Literally. So like when you're having those thoughts and whatnot, you literally just, what has worked for me is just stopping. Like I recognize that I'm having that thought, I'm being mean to myself, or I'm super anxious or whatever is going on. And I just stop and I just avert my attention somewhere else. And for some people it may work, for some it won't.
Sure.
But for me, it's proved to be very well, and I can actually say that I'm starting to be nice to myself.
That's awesome.
And it feels very good.
Good.
Very good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Thank you.
So it's still kind of looking at the realm of anxiety. You wanted to talk, and I love that you wanted to talk about this because I really, really understand this. You wanted to talk about the idea of social and societal pressure. And you shared with me in your story that in your own life, you've spent a lot of time comparing yourself to those around you, particularly friends.
Yes.
And that you were constantly envisioning a life that you were supposed to have based on those pressures instead of truly asking yourself what you really wanted from life.
Yes.
So is this something that you continue to struggle with, or do you feel like you've been able to get a handle on the comparison game?
I definitely think I still struggle with it. Because it's like this weird thing where like I go to, it's like phases almost.
Yeah.
Like where like I go through a phase where like, you know what, right now I know what I want and I'm doing this. And then like I go through this phase where I start comparing myself to people again and like my friends mostly, even random strangers and stuff like that. Within the health and fitness industry, or not industry, but I should say just like realm.
Yeah.
And it's working out, and it's very physically image based. So you kind of get wrapped up in like what other people
Tiernen.
look like, and like yourself, and you start comparing yourself to others. But in general, I compare myself a lot to my friends, because a lot of my friends, and I would say about half the group now, I think there's 15 of us, are married.
Okay.
And probably half of those have children. And so it does, for me, create a lot of pressure when I see that, because there's a part of me that like feels like I need to have that as well. And so and also just people in general that I go to school with and stuff that, you know, have college degrees and are graduating and starting their careers, and here I am working a job that I don't like. And so there's a lot of pressure to be something else. And so with therapy and recognizing the things within myself, I've been asking myself a lot recently what it is I genuinely want for myself, and hence like me changing things in my life, me deciding to go to school in the fall, me pushing other things aside, me making priorities for other things, and just generally asking myself like what I value in my life. And so finding those values has been very nice, because it's given my life more joy,
That's
more
wonderful.
peace in a sense, because I'm focusing on things I like, you know.
I really understand what you're saying. I think it's really easy for all of us to look at the people around us and kind of hold the belief system that there's a one-size-fits-all approach to what you're supposed to do in life, certain markers that you're supposed to hit. But you being a creative, which I'm really excited to talk about your creative endeavors here in a little bit, you being a creative especially understand that as a creative, a lot of times in order to reach those goals, you are almost forced to step outside of the standard box of what's considered to be one size fits all. So I'm really, really glad that you're discovering that there isn't anything wrong with the fact that your life's path is different, and also figuring out specifically what is most important to you. That's awesome.
And it's hard too, I'm not gonna lie. It is very difficult in certain aspects, but breaking it down into certain things, you know, like what you value in your life and stuff, I think gives you kind of like a sense of direction, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you said that when you were in the midst of all of that spiritual trauma, your brother passed away, which I'm very sorry to hear that.
It is very tough.
And then you said subsequently your mother began struggling with alcoholism. So as a young man, that's a lot to deal with. And what I found so incredibly impressive is that for a lot of people, when you experience things like that, the initial inclination is to self-destruct. I find it so interesting and wonderful that your response was to start working on learning music production in your bedroom.
Yeah.
What do you feel like kept you from self-destructing through all of that? Because I think anyone would have understood had that happened. What caused you to turn to a creative outlet?
You know, honestly, I really wish I had a really concrete answer, but I don't.
That's okay.
I just, at that time, I was very still deep into spiritual like practices and stuff like that, and just wanting to better myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that played into it to a degree. I didn't want to rely on any substance or anything like that, and I don't know where it came from, or maybe it's just, you know, from seeing people in my personal life having struggled with different substance abuse and stuff like that. My initial inclination is when I'm going through a tough time or through hard struggles is to immediately just turn away from anything like alcohol or, you know, marijuana or anything like that. I just turn away from it, and I don't want to touch it because I'm not sure if I do, if like I'll be able to handle it in a very conscious way.
I see, okay.
Yeah, so I turned away from it and decided that I did want to get better. And that's when, about the time I did find fitness and stuff like that, and found that I really love it and I enjoy it. And also I just love music, and I wanted to be able to make my own music. So I started learning music production and producing, mixing, mastering, beat making, whatever you want to call it. Recording vocals, everything. Like I just started learning that because I thought it was cool, and it's kind of something that ultimately the big dream in my life is to do that. So
that's awesome. And just so you know, I've told you this outside of this situation. but I've listened to your stuff.
I know.
And
I know.
I've heard a lot of beats that have been produced on a local level. Yours are incredible, and
I appreciate that.
Hey, absolutely. I really do mean it. Your work is high quality, and you can tell your work ethic is very strong.
Thank you.
I can tell that you definitely have a tendency to minimize your skill level with that, and I very much get that. But you are incredible, very talented at what you do. So I'm very glad that you found that because it's working for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's hard as a creative to kind of see your own, like, you know, how, like, I guess talented you are in certain areas or
We're
whatever.
hypercritical of ourselves.
Super hypercritical, and I don't think that necessarily, at least in my experience, goes away, you know. But you know, just in being able to recognize, like we were talking about before, where you are being hard on yourself has definitely helped me to start to enjoy more of the process of making music a little bit more. So
I love that.
Yeah.
You overall, with your interest, and then with turning towards positive ways of dealing things as opposed to, like I was saying, self-destructing, is still even impressive in and of itself, because I think there can be a really unhealthy tendency to literally put all of your energy into that one specific thing. Like, you know as well as I do, there are people that get into health and fitness, but it's like at an unhealthy, obsessive level.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're very well rounded and understand the importance of all of these things, their place that they have in your life, but you haven't let a single aspect of it completely overtake it, which I think is very, very awesome and impressive.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's I would say that to a degree, I feel like I'm blessed to have a level of awareness surrounding anything within my life, where I realize that I don't want to do something in a super unhealthy way. Even if I do it in an unhealthy way, at least I can recognize and step back and see that I am using it in an unhealthy way. You know what I'm saying? And I also have friends around me and stuff that can also point those things out. But
that's really great that you're receptive to that too, because sometimes it's hard to be receptive to other people's feedback if it's not
hard.
Really positive. You know what I mean?
It is. It's very hard. There's definitely been times where I've been told by my closest friends and family that I'm being a jackass. And it's hard to hear, but it's also like you have to respect other people's boundaries too, and respect their own lives and stuff like that, and realize that. And sometimes it's like you don't even realize you're being a jackass.
That's very
until
true.
Someone says something, you're like, oh man, I'm sorry. You know?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So yeah.
So looking at your work as a producer and songwriter, what inspires you to create?
Emotion. I'm a very sensitive individual. I have a lot of feelings, and so with anxiety and everything else, I have a lot going on. So it's an outlet, and it allows me to be able to just express feeling. Excuse me.
You're good. I totally understand that. I mean, especially looking at any artistic form, but music specifically, music is so emotion driven anyway, and I feel like for those of us that are pretty emotional creatures, I feel like music is such an incredible way to get out feelings that you may not otherwise be able to verbalize, because sometimes you can't even get it out verbally on lyrics, but you can get it out through music with the feeling that you're putting behind it.
Yes, there is no better feeling than honestly being able to translate what's in your head and play it on an instrument. And to get to that level is just super hard. I don't think there's any musician that's like, even the masters are like, man, the things I hear in my head, I wish I could be able to translate. And I feel like there's just that struggle to be able to translate, because I hear these intricate melodies and songs. So there's been times where I've woken up like from like dreams and I've heard full songs. Like I'm talking drums, instruments, backing vocals, everything in my head. Yeah. But like I don't have the technical ability to be able to play what I just heard in my head.
I understand that.
So I'm trying to get to that level where I can, when I hear this, I can play.
I can totally see that, because it sounds like when you initially started talking about when you dove into the production aspect of things initially, you were trying to soak up every little element of it. And so it doesn't surprise me that you're that artist that wants to have all those tools in your tool belt and be very highly proficient at them so that you don't feel held back when you're writing and producing. That makes a lot of sense.
100%. I wouldn't say that I'm the best producer by any means, but I do what I can.
You're pretty damn good though.
I appreciate that. It's hard. It's hard to recognize it at times.
I get that.
I know that there is musical ability and talent there. It's just, it has to be refined.
Most definitely. I also know that both of the people in this room, other than you, are happy to keep telling you how talented that you are.
I appreciate that.
So how did you find photography and videography? Because I've seen your work in both mediums. Also excellent. You are one of those people that is highly skilled in multiple avenues. So what drew you to photography and videography?
You know, honestly, the reason I got into anything video or photo related was because of my homie, Tiernen. Honestly, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I met them, they made videos with their, group of friends, which at the time I wasn't friends with, so just hanging out with them and then getting involved with those videos, that's how I got started, was because of them.
Oh, you have an excellent teacher.
Yeah,
seriously.
Dude, it's nuts. Like, if it wasn't for them, I would not have ever probably touched a camera. I might have touched one and dabbled, but nothing to the extent of where I am now. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular type of photography or videography, that a realm in both of those avenues that particularly interests you and you find yourself drawn to over and over again?
Honestly, the area that I'm least proficient in is the area that I'm actually the most drawn into, which is product and video photography. Oh,
you really do have like the best teacher ever over here. Tiernen's face is so red right now. We love you, my friend.
Dude, dude, product and video photography is just the coolest thing to me. I don't know why I'm drawn to it, but I think it is the dopest thing ever. And
it's an art form. It really is. I get it.
It is nuts, the things that these, people do with taking like fruits in our drink or something and turn it into this crazy commercial that you see on like TV or whatever. It's nuts.
Tiernen shot a commercial spot for Heart of Glass Vodka when we first linked up with Toledo Spirits.
Really?
And it's incredible. If you haven't seen it yet,
I don't think I have.
I would check it out. It made me think of it because you were talking about the fruit.
Yeah.
Such a creative.
No, actually I did.
Okay.
I lied. I just popped in my
With
head.
the strawberries, but it's very, very, very cool. Yeah.
Nuts.
It's an art form.
Front porch? Come on, this guy, come on. Let's be real, that's nuts, dude. That was an insane shot, dude. Insane, crazy.
I get the creative draw because I'm sure some people think it's as simple as putting out whatever the subject is that you're shooting and just shooting.
Yeah.
But even just from hearing Tiernen talk about the process of shooting that video, it's incredible, all of the creativity and really analytical thinking that goes into all of those ideas.
Insane.
It really is.
The technical aspect when it comes to just something as simple as lighting.
Definitely.
Lighting is an art form, and people don't realize that within like the video or cinema photography, for example.
Yeah.
Don't realize how important lighting is like the key to a scene. And
Okay.
It is insane. But yeah, I think I don't even know what I think at this point in time, if I'm being honest.
I can tell this is something that you're really passionate about, though, because you're really fired up right now.
It
like
is
a really great
I
way.
think product photography, I'm kind of getting myself away from that stuff right now, but I genuinely enjoy product and video photography.
That's awesome.
It is super dope.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you're someone that likes to collaborate with other people creatively in all avenues. So why do you love to creatively collaborate with people?
Because it gives you, perspective is everything, and like everyone has a different perspective. And so it allows you to be able to see kind of like your own blind spots.
Yeah.
Where you didn't think of something, but this other person, the way they see things, they saw it this way. So you're like, oh, so I can do this because they see it this way and I see it this way. and like you can kind of like take their perspective and combine it with your own, and maybe even create another perspective. And like collaboration, I think, is key, is absolutely key.
That's awesome. I love what you said about bringing both people's perspectives into it,
Yeah,
because that's
it's
so
nuts.
cool. We can only look at things from our own perspective. So when you have another person's bird's eye view of the situation,
Yes.
sometimes they see things in a certain creative project that you, with your own experience and skill set, might not be able to see otherwise. So that
Exactly.
makes a lot of sense why you like to do that.
I love it.
Who are your favorite people to collaborate with in our city, both photography, videography, and music production?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, I would say musically, my roommate.
Really, that's awesome.
Dude, I cannot tell you how great this dude is at music, and he's the same way. He beats himself up a lot. Dude, he played a song for me yesterday on the piano that's right behind us.
Yeah.
And I was like, literally had my eyes closed and was like vibing hard.
That's awesome.
Like, this dude is dummy good at music. So musically, I would say he is like my go-to collaboration.
I think I've heard your roommate's voice in
Dude,
Ridiculous.
he is super good. I had
So good.
We were practicing our set list because we want to hit an open mic here soon.
Excellent.
And my brother was here, and he was like, dude, that one song, I'm not gonna say it right now, but that one song, he's like, dude, I could have that on repeat. And I was like, it is nice to hear like another person's outside perspective. But photo and video, I would say my homie, Tiernen
Yes.
Rice. There's nobody. I look up to that dude, and the thing is like I've texted him and told him like how much I look up to him, and he's like, I don't know why, dude. Like I'm just like chilling, bro. And I'm like, dude, like you don't.
That is
realize,
100% a thing that Tiernan would say.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just like, dude, like you don't realize like I've looked up to you. I've like literally all throughout high school, like I idolized that dude. I don't know what it was, but like
I
just
get
always
it.
had it.
I understand
and so,
it.
Like photo and video, 100%. My homie Tiernan.
That's
There's
awesome.
no other person that I think I've collaborated with other people and like models and stuff like that I've photographed and stuff. But if there's anyone I had to choose, it would be them. I don't know what your other people were.
We could literally call this episode a tribute to Tiernan. I love this so much. We love you so much, Tiernan.
Seriously, dude. The greatest human being on planet Earth.
That is so true.
Let's be real.
So, Tyler, what gives your life meaning today?
I think I would have to attribute what gives my life meaning today to my value system. And the biggest thing for me that I find that I value in my life is my family and my friends. And that sounds super cliche, but I promise you, like when people like start to, really find those concrete things within their life that they value, it actually like, I don't know, it gives you a lot more like concrete, like, okay, this is what this gives my life meaning.
I don't think it sounds cliche. Relationships we're nothing without our relationships, and building a really strong foundation of people in your life that you know are going to support you and support you whether or not they understand exactly where you're coming from is completely invaluable.
Oh yeah. So my family and my friends. That is, without them, I don't know where I'd be. That's my value system. That's what keeps me going.
Awesome.
All my friends, their kids, their wives, their significant others, whatever. That's what keeps me going.
Love it.
The base of it all. Honestly, if I'm being honest, like music and health and fitness and all that stuff is a huge part of my life, but that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So if you could give any upcoming Glass City creative a piece of advice who's just starting to dip into their creative avenue like you were once with music production, what would you say to these new and upcoming Glass City creatives?
If I had to say anything to any new and upcoming person that's trying to pursue whatever it is they're trying to do, is for one, consistency. If you can have consistency, that'll train discipline. I would have to throw in, do not, when you are being hard on yourself, you have to try to recognize that and try to flip that narrative into something that is more positive. And that sounds super cliche, but recognize that you are being hard on yourself and literally be nice. Just simply be nice to yourself. Give yourself grace, time, patience. And that's really all I have to say.
That is excellent advice.
Yeah, it's super cliche, but I'm serious about being nice.
Solid. It's solid
being
advice.
Nice to yourself there's nothing like it when you actually start from somebody who has not been nice to themselves for 26 plus years of their life. When you start to recognize that you are being hard on yourself and you start being nice to yourself, it's a different world.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Tyler, you are one of the good ones. I am so excited that we got to do this. You are incredibly strong. You're very self-aware. I admire your self-discipline and your drive to get better at your craft and to just keep improving who you are as a person and learning to love yourself more.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having us in your home.
Yeah, this is wild. It's kind of weird, but it's cool, dude. I'm totally here for it.
Well, look back into that camera and tell our Glass City friends where they can find you on social media and if you have any projects coming up that you would like to promote.
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. Let's go.
It's a new platform,
dude. Social media at Tyler Ritter Official, all one word. I post my music production there. And also I want to plug my best friend Ben Albring, that is BenAlbring, because they are releasing music that I have produced, mixed, and mastered. And we will be playing live open mics and potentially live shows, hopefully in the very, very near future. So yeah, that's where you can find me on social media.
Awesome.
Cool.
So all of you who are watching and listening, thank you so much for tuning in once again. You can like us on Instagram and Facebook at Heart of Glass the Pod for both platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and just make sure to keep tuning in with us. Thank you so much for committing to being with us on this journey, and thank you for joining us once again to learn a little bit more about one of the awesome humans who makes up the heartbeat of the Glass City. Please stick around after this episode for a preview of next week's episode featuring Dr. Deetra Hickey. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.
Yeah, so I did these in-services with Toledo Public, and people would just line up and say, you're missing your calling, and you need to be doing this, and I didn't want you to stop talking, and I hate these things normally. And so that combined with thirdly, one time I spoke and there was about 1,000 people, about 1,200 people, and I remember thinking I spoke for an hour, and my foundation is stress maintenance, work-life balance, resilience, and I remember thinking all of these people have a problem or have been through adversity or are going through adversity at varying levels, because we all have. And I was just able to help 1,200 people in a 60-minute period. And I don't know their individual problems that I'm going to walk away taking with me, but I know that they have them. So I still was able to speak from my heart and passionately. And I helped 1,200 people in the same amount of time that I could help one person in a 60-minute period.